Hello everyone, I'm back with another video. It's on methods of filmmaking, or modes of filmmaking. I don't really know what to title this video, but I just named it as methods of filmmaking. So I'm going to explain different ways you can make films and how you could tell your own narratives. So first of all, drama. You can use drama, which is basically narrative fiction or genre of narrative fiction made into film. And its purpose is to has intentions, that is to tell the story through a serious or humorous tone. So it could be into dramas are usually genred pieces of media. Like basically, they could be more than one genre at a time. Like for example, a superhero movie has a hybrid genre of comedy, fantasy, sci-fi, action, romance. It has a lot of different things in it. And there's other examples including soap operas, legal dramas, police dramas, teen dramas or coming of age dramas, comedy dramas, and historical dramas or period dramas you could call them. So they have a particular setting and subject matter that is explored in the film, and it depends on the what kind of film it is that you can get. It helps the audience explore a broad range of different emotions so they become more connected and they feel the character's pain and struggles or whatever the character's feeling. So most often they always have beginning, middle and end. Obviously, it's just a simple way of doing it. Like the linear narrative, and there's circular narratives if you want to experiment with your drama. But you need to be really, really precise. But they can get confusing after these circular narratives. So all films and TV shows are basically dramas in a broader sense because they use actors to represent the lives of the characters, like real life people or otherwise. So they can, as actors are there to personify or impersonate another side of themselves, or they are playing themselves in a way, but they are using a different personality. Like people say they're method actors that like to stay in character very much often. Like throughout, they just maintain that other side. It's basically their own. They're exploring their own personality. Now, I went to drama school, but I don't know many method actors personally. But I know there's some like famous ones. And drama can be seen as a play that is performed on stage, on screen. But it's everything about dramas is basically staged. There's nothing that it isn't. That's why it seems so perfect or seems so real the way we look at it. Because it's been constructed for our own view. And everything is scripted. It could be improvised, but it still maintains that stage like performance basically. So I have a film as an example. So everything you see in that film is staged. Everything is been choreographed. Like from going through the door, swiping your card through the hotel door to going to bed. Everything that he did in the film was pretty much choreographed by the director. You need direction in order to get the scene that the director wants, basically. And you have to, if you're doing a drama, you have to direct very well. You need to plan, choreograph, rehearse with your actors to make sure they get each action the way the director wants it, or you want it if you're directing. So everything has been staged, it's been choreographed, and each time you don't need dialogue for that. Dialogue is just its own thing. It's a form of action, but what he's doing, each movement, each time it's staged, is form of action. Dialogue is a form of action as well, you know, and that's why we use it in film. Like everything, we need to stage everything. You need to plan, caution, construct. It makes it a good film. The noises, when they will be included, is each beat in the film. You already had like 6 or 7 beats in there in this scene. So story beats I'm talking of. If you know about script writing, you'll know what story beats are. So, and I'll make a video about it at some point. So, documentary films are non-fictional motion pictures that intend to document reality. So the purpose of them is to educate, instruct, or and maintain a history. So basically, they're meant to expose some parts of the truth about something. So, and they're meant to get us to understand, and they get us to think and use our minds, and to take away the information that's been used in the documentary. And what are you trying to say in your documentary? Or what are your points? So Bill Nichols once described the documentary as a filmmaking practice, a cinematic tradition, and a mode of audience reception without any clear boundaries. He's the one that comes up with the 6 modes of documentaries based on how they are done. So like there's participatory where the filmmakers is in their film, expository is like commentary. It means that it's exposing the truth about something. We're getting the audience to see through. They can have their own opinions as well, like, you know, because documentaries are there for that. You're allowed to have an opinion, but you can't always be biased because you have to tell 2 sides of the truth. So each early documentaries were known as actual films because they were around 1 minute or less. So over time they became longer and included different categories. So some examples could be used as are educational, like you see bite-sized documentaries. BBC documentaries are very educational. Observational, like day in the life, and you get to see the lives of other people that are living in that community. And docufiction is basically a docudrama. So basically, like Crime Watch, for example, if you have a reconstruction of a crime scene that you're trying to recall, basically, like something that's happened to that person, whether it's a crime or an event that's gone on in their lives, and they're just documenting. So it creates a drama, a narrative. So documentaries are very informative and often are used within schools as a resource to teach various principles so they can help educate students. And they can be used as a reference source, as an academic media source, basically, to help people. It basically, you could go back to it, you could refer back to it in your academic studies and stuff if you're a student. So, and teachers can help use it as a resource of teaching and requires, yeah, basically. So, documentary filmmakers are responsible for being truthful to their vision of the world without intentionally misrepresenting the topic. So, all they need to do is be truthful, not lie to their audience, and to mislead them. Because if you do that, how are the audience going to understand what you're trying to say? And how the audience will feel about you having one opinion? You can't be biased. That's an example of misrepresentation of a topic. Because you're only representing one part of the truth and you're not exploring every part of it. Like, you can have there's truth about people carrying weapons around, and you have to explore two sides of that. Or if schools should wear uniforms, you have to you have to explore. Or if you think the Conservatives are a good government or not a good government, you have to say why they're not a good government or why they are a good government. But I'm not saying they are, but I'm just giving examples. So you need to use that as a way. You could use your own personal experience, like you can do that as well. In documentaries, you don't really need to plan. You plan, but you don't have. There's no clear way of doing it, making a documentary, because you have so many ways you can do it. So many mechanisms. You can animate, you could go and interview people, you can do vox pops, you could go and ask the general public. Obviously, that's vox pops. Or you could do video shots, film different shots of people walking or doing other things or visiting a place. You could present in your own documentary, however you want to do it. There's ways. Or you can create a reconstruction of something. You can use a voiceover, however you want to do it. And I'm going to give you an example of one documentary. It is a quite good documentary, actually. I really liked it. So,
My name is Wesley Law. I own that restaurant in 35 years. Uh, 1976, I come from Hong Kong. That restaurant is a 1983. Uh, Now it's almost 35 years. I'm owner. I'm chef. For me, every day is a special day because they come here. If the customer enjoy the food, I'm very happy. And the employer I think just look like a family.
Oh, hi, I'm Tony. That's American English name. I'm Chinese name. Chen is Chen. Chen. In China, a lot of people call it Chen. I'm working here many years, about 5 years in here. Some dim sum, some chicken or beef, some vegetable, or some house specialty. It's last day in here. Many years in here. So today is last day. I will miss in here, and I miss here the food, and I miss here the customer.
So what you see in this documentary is you can see dates. You can tell it's a documentary because it has dates, time, time of the period, time frame when it was made, the film was made, and the location and the buildings and people talking about their life because the man gave his life about when he came from to America from Hong Kong in 1976 and he opened his restaurant in 83 and other guy was talking about Chinese because his Chinese name is not basically his English name. So he has two names. So you know certain stuff about people. And you get to understand what they do, who they are basically in this documentary. I will recommend this documentary to you if you haven't seen. So experimental film or avant-garde cinema is a mode of filmmaking which rigorously reevaluates cinematic conventions and explore non-narratives or alternatives to traditional filmmaking methods of working. So basically, they just go against the grain of what filmmaking should be, basically. And there's a lot of cinema films nowadays. There's a lot of independent cinema now that does it, like art house cinema, and there's indie cinema also because it's going against like the conventional way that Hollywood does it, makes films and tells stories and all that. So many experimental films were the early ones were relate back to arts of other disciplines like painting, dancing, literature, or poetry, and they come from research and development, like of new technical resources. So they're constantly experimenting with other material, like they can use music as a way to create film or images or pictures. And they don't really have a meaning. They're just made to show the audience that there is a different way of doing things or a different way of making doing filmmaking. So and there is controversy behind this type of thing because a lot of people think this is very niche and not many people use experimental films. But a lot of nowadays has become a thing, but they put more narrative or depth into it. But there's most that doesn't do that, and it's up to the audience to interpret it, what they mean, and all that. So some experimental films have been distributed from mainstream channels or even made within commercial studios. But other than that, they're majority of the time they're produced with low budgets, with minimal crew or a single person that's self-financed or supported through small grants. So they raise money to make the film by themselves, like from Kickstarter. But there's some films that have become famous, even though they're low budget. They became famous. They're like a cult following or gain a fan base or something. Like I think the Blair Witch Project, for example, was basically an experimental horror film. If you think about it, because there's some that became mainstream, even though they started out in this form. There's a lot of experimental films. It's more like they add random images or random videos, or there's you don't really know what's happening half the time, and they it's all left up to the audience to think, what do these films mean? How do I know what they mean? You see it now in a Tate Modern. If you go to Tate Modern, you will see a lot of experimental films that are made for art. Really, it doesn't have to be. It has no narrative, no meaning to it. They're just there to for show, really. To have one experimental film that could that I'm going to show you. Sorry. So it's like postmodernism, because postmodernism is basically challenging modernist ideas and conventions. So this film basically did what an experimental film should do in some ways, because it played around with sound and music and imagery as well, and visual effects. And editing has been a constant reoccurrence in this as well, because they actually paced the editing to make it more quicker, like to show the city landscapes. There's a lot of things in this film. You can interpret it how you want, but I don't really get it. But I know it's gotta be to do with her overthinking something, or thinking about something. We don't know what she's thinking about, and it's very difficult to interpret. It's up to the audience interpretation of what this film could be about. So animation is a method of motion picture where still images are manipulated to appear as moving images. So traditional animation is normally done in 2D or drawn in 2D, whilst 3D images are made out of clay, drawn. They can be drawn as well, or they could be created through computer software. Many animations are created through computer generated imagery, which is known as CGI. CGI has been used very often now in cinema. a lot of film studios actually use CGI as the main way for animation to be created, like Disney, Pixar, or there's DreamWorks as well, and sometimes Marvel does it as well. And it's another one. No, I nearly thought. Yeah, that's so. Computer animation can be very detailed, 3D animation, but in contrast, 2D computer animation, which may look have to look of traditional animation, can be used for stylistic reason, low bandwidth, faster real time renderings because obviously they can be done much quicker than 3D animation. 3D animation, the production of it takes so much time to do. And it's very time consuming as well. But you can do stop motion, which is basically much quicker. You can use 3D animation like film stop motion. Basically, you just click on one scene, each movement is been filmed at a time. But it does take time, but I think it's more quicker than just using CGI. Computer a computer software like Maya, for example, to create your animations. So other common animation methods apply a stop motion technique or two to three dimensional objects like paper cutouts, puppets, or clay figures, as mentioned, because they can. There are they're one of the few ways you can use animation to tell your animated stories, and yeah. A cartoon is an animated film, usually a short film that's very exaggerated in terms of its visual style. So the style takes inspiration from comic strips that are often featuring anthropomorphic animals, which basically animals that act and behave in human ways, superheroes, or the adventures of human protagonists. So with animation, you often have a storyboard that you go by because you need to draw it out compared to other ones that you have a list of different shots that you're going to include a shot of a woman in the walking to the front door. She opens the front door. Shot one is that she's walking to the front door. Shot two could be she's opening about to open the front door, and then you see a close up of her hand opening the key, twisting the lock, or then she lets somebody in. Then she opens the door and leaves the house and steps outside the door, and then she locks the door and all that stuff. You can have a close up of the key, but it won't be locked. Then you see her fade away. Fade out after she leaves the shop, the door, when she's outside. So I'm just giving an example. But this, you have to draw it out. The same action that I said, you draw it out. So that's how it is with animation. You have to always draw. And you have to draw the way you want your characters to appear like. You can't just make an animation. Unless you do stick, unless you're using puppets or dolls or anything. But they still need to be drawn. But if you have Barbie, if you want to buy a Barbie doll or something, you still have to draw, no matter what the animation is. So that animation must be hand drawn, but it had to be created through in a 3D like way. But I'm not sure how. I do find animation time consuming personally. I wouldn't really use it in my own films unless it's really necessary as a stylistic effect. Some people just do part animation, part live action. But I think I wonder how long that takes if someone has to do that, you know. In this film, it's very, very stylistic. You can see the grey, black and white tones in this film. It's more grayscale because it shows the serious message and they use exaggeration for it. And I think they made it seem like they moved around the 2D animation to make it seem more 3D. I'm not sure if I'm right, but that's how I saw it. And the grayscale is used to capture the serious message in the film. If you haven't seen the film, I'll leave a link to that. Every film that you've seen. But hope you liked this video. Please like, share, subscribe. See many more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.